For the next little bit here, I wanted to make some videos just kind of re-explaining the vision of the church and talking about it coming out of COVID, make sure everybody understands, our mission statement, our vision statement, and our process statement, because we have all three. And so I want to make sure we do that. Today, I want to focus on this, and it is, and pardon my sloppy handwriting, embrace God's grace. That's the first part of the mission statement. So we have, when you think about this, you've got, make sure you can see this, embrace is here. Then we want people to be embracing God's grace, to equipping, and then finally, and to engaging those that are around them. So it's kind of a process statement as well. So what does it mean to embrace God's grace? Well, we're talking here about worship, prayer, fellowship. If we think about the purpose of the church. Now, I'm going to break this down real quick. When we embrace God's grace, what we're doing is we're coming to an end of ourselves. We are coming to an end of our own efforts and our own trying to make ourselves right before God, to make ourselves pleasing before God, to make ourselves, glad that God has us on His team. Grace is, by definition, unmerited favor. And so when we look at the Bible, we see passages while Christ loved us while we were still sinners. All of our works are as filthy rags. There is nothing that we can contribute to God to make Him really make us desirable, other than the fact that He desires us. That is what makes this relationship beautiful. So when we're embracing God's grace, we're embracing the reality and the truth that really the only contribution we have for salvation is that we contribute our sin. Now, the gift that we have in grace is that we have to accept it, and that is through, prayer, through faith and repentance and owning that sin. And then it has not just an individual effect, but like all things in the church, it affects the individual. See, there's you, the individual. Yay. But it also has an effect on the whole church. This causes us not to just embrace grace for ourselves, but we are also to embrace grace that God has given us in the local body. In Ephesians chapter 5, we see that the Bible tells us that Christ died for the church. We need to have an understanding here that embracing God's grace is certainly individualistic. So it is about one person, but it's about more than just one person, but it's about a collective group of people. Here at Grace Baptist Church, it's about the fellowship in the body that is Grace Baptist. This is why church membership is important. We got to have this marker between those who are inside the body and those who are outside the body. We want to be responsible to love the people like we're called to do. We can't one another without these kind of lines being drawn of who we are supposed to embrace as, fellow believers and be in covenant with. It's hard to love all 30,000 plus people that live here in Carter County, but, the 200 or so that attend here on a regular basis, we could probably do that. We can have, groups and small groups where we meet and we do that, like Sunday schools and other venues like that. So this is the first part. It's about coming to Christ. Embracing God's grace is all about coming to Christ in repentance and salvation. So hope this is helpful. I'm going to explain next time on equipping. There won't be a video next week. I'll start that in August. I'll go through and explain and try to do a big picture of that all together. So join me next week for that as well, or in 2 weeks. The other thing too is I wanted to remind everybody, church picnic is going to be coming up here. Be sure you sign up. Deacon elections is going to be this week.